Hello one and all, I'm back once again to do a video on Soma Spider, so what? And as a lot of anime viewers are probably aware, there was a whole lot of content from the light novel that didn't make it into the anime. Character background, character development, skill explanations. Seriously, this first volume of light novel, about 30% of about 80 pages take place from Shun's perspective, and not a single one of those actually made it into the anime. Shun's first appearance in the anime, when he's at that big party where he met Hugo and Yuri, that takes place in volume 2, so yeah, a whole lot of cut content. Before I really get into a few things I want to explain, first off, the anime covers the first 5 volumes of the light novel, and it rearranges a lot of events, so to keep these videos as simple as possible, I'm going to do a separate video on each of the 5 volumes, rather than try to do videos on episode 1 through 5 or something like that. Also, I've only actually read the first 5 volumes of the light novel, because this series, time and time again, likes to pull out the rug from under us. We thought for the first 5, 6, 7 episodes that Kumoko's storyline and Shun's storyline were happening at the same time, completely unaware of the fact there was a 15-year difference between the two of them, which, oh, I love it, I freaking love it. And so I wanted to come into this video with the right mindset, the mindset of someone who's only read up to the point of where the anime ended, so I wouldn't accidentally spoil anything. Secondly, everyone in this series has a lot of names. Seriously, Shun has his nickname Shun, his princely name, his Japanese first name, his Japanese last name, and depending on who's talking, they might use any of those names to talk about him, to describe him. That makes things very, very hard to follow, so for the sake of keeping things simple, I'm going to refer to him as Shun in every scene, no matter what's happening. Same thing with Katya. Whether she's the Duke's daughter or Shun's gaming buddy back in Japan, I will still refer to her as Katya just to keep things as easy to follow as possible. But alright, so let's get into this. And the difference is, start off very, very quickly on literally the very first page. Once there was a world where the battle between hero and demon lord repeated itself time and time again. During this battle, an enormous space-time spell was fired and exploded in a certain classroom in a Japanese high school. The spell hit everyone in the classroom and all of them lost their lives in an instant. The souls of these victims were scattered into another world. Each was born again in a new life. So yeah, that's pretty different from the anime, though I do think I prefer the light novel version. I mean, the anime, the big question of, okay, how they all die was not really addressed all that much. It felt like more than anything a distraction. Whereas in the light novel, we actually get an explanation. I mean, it's not a complete explanation. Obviously, there's a whole lot more of the story than that, but it's enough where we can really focus on Kumoko and her spider adventures. But speaking of Kumoko, before she was reincarnated, before she became Spider-Girl, she was a complete and total recluse. She never spoke to anyone at school because she was just so overwhelmingly socially awkward, and basically viewed herself as being bottom of the barrel, completely unaware of the fact that her classmates viewed her as the prettiest girl in the entire school, and viewed her not talking as her being just so cool and calm, and above all this. And that's why I had such a hard time believing that Kumoko was white, because white is emotionless, expressionless, while Kumoko is this big ball of energy who can't stand still, who's constantly singing and dancing. And it turns out that's who she was back in Japan. A giant, basic magical girl filled with energy and sugar inside, but a stone statue on the surface. Anyway, her social awkwardness is probably a result of her parents, who just really, really suck. I mean, they come home super late at night, so she almost never sees them, and when she does, they don't actually talk at all. She basically just makes herself some microwave dinners and then plays video games until she falls asleep, getting only 4 hours of sleep a night, which, oh, that's impressive. That's very, very impressive. She even says that by the time she reincarnates, she's already forgotten what her parents' faces look like. And just make things even sadder, she even says that her parents probably aren't even sad that she died, but rather are sad that she's no longer going to contribute rent money. She's a high school girl, and her parents made her pay rent. Rent money which she earned by trading stocks, by the way, so yeah, a very, very smart spider. Kumoko, meanwhile, says the only thing she really misses about Japan is her gaming avatar, Baldy. Oh, I love you, Kumoko. But anyway, then she begins her journey as a 3-foot-tall spider, and to start off the journey, she gets a skill appraisal, which is universally considered to be the most useless skill you can get. Not even kidding, because at low levels, all I'll say is you're looking at a wall, you're looking at a stone, you're looking at a spider, and leveling it up requires constant effort. You also can't appraise the same thing twice in a row without waiting a significant amount of time, and appraising even a single thing can cause severe headaches and a feeling of drunkenness, and if you're particularly unlucky, it can even make you pass out. Compatibility does play a rather significant role in it though. For example, Katya has to spend 1,000 skill points to get the skill, and even though she got it when she was a baby and has been using it constantly, it's only at level 4. Shun and Kumoko, meanwhile, only have to spend 100 skill points, and it levels up rather quickly for them. Kumoko gets up to, level 6 or 7 by the end of this first volume, within a couple weeks. And then she realizes that there is a very long string of thread dragging along the ground behind her, which she has constantly been producing without even realizing it. So she starts experimenting, realizing that she can affect its strength, its size, its stickiness, its elasticity. And, she's a lot of control over it, and she's very excited to mess around with that. And she uses it to start capturing some frogs. The battle against the first frog gets her acid and poison resistance level 2. The battle against the second frog gets her poison fang 2, poison resistance 3, and spider thread 3. And eating the third frog gets her the title Foul Feeder, which gets her poison resistance level 3 and rot resistance level 1, which is very, very important down the road. But anyway, then she finds Faye's egg. Yay! And she tries very, very hard to break it, smashing against the ground time and time again. But no matter what she does, it just won't crack. It just won't break open. Because, as it turns out, Kumoko is very, very weak, and Faye is rather strong. Oh, and fun fact, Faye has petrification resistance and fire resistance because of Kumoko. Kumoko used her as a shield at one point, which got her the petrification resistance. And because the Avengers attacked Kumoko's house and burned it to the ground, Faye got fire resistance, even though she was still an egg. And then, she's forced to flee as her nest, her only home, the only place she's ever belonged, burns to the ground with a promise to live with pride. Though she does say that when she found out later on it was actually inside the egg, she was so glad she didn't break that thing open, which, yeah, fair enough. I mean, Faye and Kumoko, neither of them had telepathy at that point, so Kumoko would probably try to eat Faye, though, I mean, Faye is a much, much superior species, so I'm not exactly sure if that would have worked out for her. I mean, could Faye have killed Kumoko at that stage? I'm honestly not sure. Probably not, because Kumoko is just more skilled and more used to combat by that point, but curious, very curious. But anyway, then over the next couple pages, Kumoko managed to level up appraisal time and time again. When it reaches level 2, she can see her species as small, lesser Terratect. When it reaches level 3, she can start double appraising things. For example, she could appraise her species and read it as small, lesser Terratect, young offspring of inferior Terratect. And then she could actually appraise the word Terratect in that and read it as Terratect, a spider-type monster species. She's also able to figure out that she's in the Great Elro Labyrinth, the largest labyrinth in the world. Huzzah! That's very useful. Unfortunately, she's a bit distracted by this and doesn't notice the frog in front of her, resulting in acid resistance reaching level 3 and pain resistance reaching level 1. And then appraisal reaches level 4, and she can now see an HP, MP, and SP bar. Huzzah! Though interesting enough, the SP bar is divided in between yellow and red. Yellow is like sprint, the amount of energy she can use in a single moment. She can run, and then stop. Yellow will recharge over time, very quickly. Red, not so much. Red is her total energy, her total SP, and, it can only be recharged by eating food, and if it runs out in the middle of battle, she'll die. She will 100% die. She then finds herself in the centipede habitat and is very, very confused because centipedes, they are not that smart, they are not that strong. She's wondering why no one else is here trying to eat them. She's able to kill 3 of them with surprise attacks, which gets her the title Assassin, which comes with the skill Stealth and Shadow Magic. She also gets the title Monster Slayer, which comes with the basic stat skills Strength and Solidity, which I'll talk about a bit more later. And she even gets the skill Overeating, which very much offends her, but she's still happy about it. And then as she's wandering through, she suddenly comes across an army of centipedes, several thousand strong. She realizes, oh, this is why no one else is here. This is why no one else goes after the centipedes, because they can paralyze you with one bite, and then the entire swarm can eat you very, very quickly. Oh no. And then she runs very, very fast, but on the bright side, trying to appraise several thousand centipedes all at once managed to get her to level up appraisal to 5, even though it caused a very, very severe headache for her. And this tells her that her status is weak, which, oh, that's sad. Though she's not all that weak, because by using her threads properly, she's able to beat this giant snake who was way, way stronger than her. And this gets her up to level 9, and results in her night vision reaching level 10, which is very impressive, because at this point she didn't actually know she had night vision, though it does explain why she's able to see, in a cave that has no source of light. And this results in her getting the new skill, Vision Expansion level 1, though she has absolutely no idea what this does at all. But unlike in the anime, this doesn't actually get her up to level 10, and instead she camps out here for a very long time, building up a new nest and killing a literal mountain of monsters. But she can't actually eat them because she wants to finish off the snake first. She never leaves food unfinished, which, oh, I love that about her. And then she finally reaches level 10. Yay! And she can choose between evolving to a small Terratact or a lesser Terratact. And she decides the small one sounds like it has more potential, like has better choices down the road to evolve into. Plus, she doesn't want to get too big, she doesn't want to lose her speed, her maneuverability, or get stuck in the tunnels. I mean, if she evolves into like a giant spider here, then she'll have no way out. She'll basically be stuck here until she starves to death, and that would be a very, very unpleasant end for her. But anyway, then she instantly falls asleep, wakes back up again at level 1, and finds her SP has been completely emptied. Yeah, it turns out evolving takes up a lot of SP, and then she is so hungry that she literally finished off 3/4 of that snake, and then the entire monster mountain that she managed to collect while she was waiting to finish the snake. And even that doesn't fully fill her SP bar, only putting up to 80%. So yeah, she is a very, very hungry spider. And then she leaves her second home, off to look for the exit once again. Unfortunately, her home is then found by 6 adventurers who see all the webbing, who see the giant snake skeleton, and realize there must be an evolved spider here, someone they need to take out as soon as possible. And they're all between level 22 and 29, so yeah, she does not stand a chance against them. They would kill her very, very easily. In fact, they're almost as fast as she is, and her speed stats are, interesting, very interesting, because when her appraisal reaches level 6, she actually gets a chance to see what her stats are, and her HP, MP, and SP are all 36, her offense, defense, magic, and resistance are all around 20, and her speed is 348! 348, more than 10 times her other stats, so yeah, she is a very, very fast spider. This is a result of the Skanda skill, which I'll talk about a bit more later, but speed is certainly her best weapon. And to get some more weapons, she then buys the skill Detection and Thread Control. Detection just causes severe, severe headaches whenever she tries to use it, so she decides it's not really worth it and basically puts on the shelf forever. It will be important down the road, just not right now. Thread Control, on the other hand, seems useless at first because it requires MP to move the thread, and at level 1, the thread just barely twitches. But she realizes there's some pretty impressive range to it, and using it requires very little MP, so she starts practicing with it, basically draining her MP time and time again, every time it charges back up to use it, and very quickly she's able to get up to level 4, where it is somewhat useful, not fully, but at least somewhat useful now. But unfortunately, the adventurers find her and chase her off a cliff, which she has to bungee jump down while being chased by giant bees, and then once she lands on the ground, she's immediately stung by a giant bee, and her 36 HP drops down to 6 HP, so she is in very, very bad shape, and she basically has to hide in a hole in the wall for the next week. Unfortunately, at that point, a snake shows up, the same snake she had so much trouble fighting before, and she's worried, oh no, I can't beat the snake, but then she doesn't worry about the snake, because the Earth Dragon Araba shows up, and he instantly kills the snake in one blow, and then she realizes, oh, I'm afraid. I'm very, very afraid. But anyway, back on top of the cliff, the adventurers realize that she got away, and they decide to go back home to contact the Adventurers Guild, contact, the proper authorities, tell them there is an evolved mutated spider, one who is very, very fast and probably very dangerous, one who they can't allow to evolve again or she'll turn into a true, true monster. That true, true monster, meanwhile, is at the bottom of this cliff, and she is in so much pain that while she's asleep, her pain resistance goes up from level 2 to level 7, but it doesn't actually stop the pain, and she realizes rather quickly that rather than stopping pain, pain resistance just makes it so it's easier to endure the pain and keep moving, which, God, that's awful, but eventually it reaches level 10 and turns into pain nullification, and then she gets the skill pain mitigation level 1, which seems to do absolutely nothing, but by the time it reaches level 3, she realizes, oh, okay, you know what, this skill actually does help with pain, this actually does help reduce pain, but there's still an awareness that the person is in pain, which is helpful, you want to know if you got stabbed in the back by somebody. But anyway, over this next week, her health very slowly starts to dwindle, and she really, really needs to kill something so she can level up again, and the best way she can do this is to go after the bees. They mostly move in groups with an evolved captain leading the charge, but there are some loner bees, ones she thinks are so stupid or so unqualified they don't actually get a group of their own. And so she starts making these things she calls morning spiders, which is basically just a super sticky thread connected to a regular thread, which she can throw at the bees and then drag them back to her base. But as it turns out, she is surprisingly good at throwing things, and she's even able to get the skills concentration, hit, and throw just from doing this again and again and again. And eventually she's able to take out enough bees to reach level 3. Huzzah! And her strength, solidity, and her reading skill all reach level 2. And she also unlocks the skill HP Auto Recovery, which really, really annoys her. I mean, it's a super useful skill, but she's been in absolute agony, a hair's breadth away from death for literally the last week. She really wishes she'd gotten this sooner. Also, when she leveled up, she realized that all her stats went up by 1 or 2 points, except her speed, which went up by 21 points. So yeah, she is truly, truly a speed-based character. And then we get a very large divergence from the anime as Kumoko starts building a nest all the way up the wall. She's trying to get all the way back up to the upper stratum this way. And that's a very bold strategy since she's in the territory of the bees, and they keep attacking her by the dozens, but, they aren't much of a threat to her, so she's easily able to take them all out. Until Araba shows up, good old Earth Dragon Araba, who was apparently annoyed by the nest, so he completely and utterly obliterates it, leaving Kumoko to hide as best she can and hope that Araba doesn't kill her, which brings her stealth and fury resistance up to level 5. So she decides her only real option is to explore around the lower stratum and hopefully find a way back up to the upper stratum. And just to quickly explain this, there is the upper stratum, the middle stratum, lower stratum, and the bottom stratum. The bottom is where Mother lives. It's where she spends most of her time. But when she lays eggs, she goes all the way up to the upper stratum to give her kids a chance to not die immediately, hopefully level up and evolve into superior species who will be somewhat useful to her. And when Kumoko fell down this vertical shaft, she managed to pass the middle stratum and go all the way down to the bottom stratum. So yeah, that's bad. There are a lot of very, very strong monsters down here. Monsters that could easily kill her. And there are some weaker monsters as well, but it turns out the reason why they aren't hunted, but the reason why they aren't killed, is because they are all very, very poisonous, and eating them would be, basically deadly. Especially the good old Elro Gastruch, a small snail-like bug who Kumiko decides to try and eat because she is very, very hungry. And it was a very, very bad idea, as eating the thing actually lowers her health and increases her rot resistance level. That is how overwhelmingly awful this thing is. I mean, she's been complaining about every monster she's seen up to this point, but this thing is next level awful, disgusting, just terrible. But, raising rot resistance is important, so this is probably for the best. And eventually she's able to find some edible monsters, which she kills with Poison Fang, which grants her the title Poison Master. And this comes with Poison Synthesis 1, Poison Magic 1, and boosts her Poison Fang up to 8. Huzzah! And Poison Synthesis allows her to make Weak Poison or Level 8 Spider Poison, which is much, much deadlier than Weak Poison, but Weak Poison still has its uses. For example, when she's on fire, she uses Weak Poison to put it out, which, that works. And then Appraisal finally reaches level 7 and finally becomes actually useful, and she actually see what her skills really do. First off, there's Overeating, allows the user to ingest food beyond normal limitations. In addition, the resultant stamina can be stocked as surplus. However, the user will gain weight proportionate to this. The amount of stamina that can be stocked increases with higher skill level. So yeah, Overeating basically allows her to go beyond her stamina limit, beyond her SP limit, and have extra in case she needs it, in case she's in a battle where she needs more stamina. The whole thing about gaining weight, though, does not affect her because she is a monster, which lucky for her. Strength adds to average attack capability by the number of skill levels. So if she levels up strength, she gets 1 extra attack point. If she levels up solidity, she gets 1 extra defense point. These are the basic stat skills. But these can also level up and become something much, much more interesting in the case of Skanda. Skanda multiplies average speed capability by the number of the skill level. Also, growth of this stat at each level up increases by 10 times the skill level, which it's just such an overwhelmingly broken skill to start off with. I said before the Kumoko speed stat went up by 21 when she leveled up. That was because, well, 1 point that was from just leveling up bonus, but the other 20 was from the Skanda skill. Because it was level 2, it went up by 20 points each time her own level goes up. So yeah, it's a very, very good skill to get early on in life. It was actually said in the Shun storyline, which I'll get to later, that they were supposed to get, Herculean Strength, Fortitude, Skanda, as many of these as possible while you're still level 1, so that way they have more benefit, more effect on you when you actually start raising your level and fighting monsters. Taboo is a skill given to those who have committed a taboo. It must never be raised, which... Oh, that's ominous. That is so overwhelmingly ominous sounding. HP auto recovery. HP recovers over time. Can even recover injuries that would not otherwise recover naturally. Poison Fang. Attacks using Fang will be given the poison attribute. Spire Thread, a special skill possessed by spider-type creatures. Can make customizable threads. Customizable qualities include viscosity, elasticity, resilience, texture, strength, size. Thread control allows the user to freely manipulate thread. Throw improves power and accuracy when throwing objects. Concentration, ability to concentrate increases. Hit improves accuracy rate in any situation. Appraisal, create information about objects, creatures, etc. Detection, that's the important one. A skill that combines all perception systems. Summary: magic perception, physical perception, material perception, presence perception, danger perception, motion perception, heat perception, reaction perception, and spatial perception. So very, very important if she can actually learn how to use it properly without the splitting headaches. Night vision allows clear sight even without light source. This is a skill she was born with because, yeah, you kind of need that if you're born inside a labyrinth. Vision expansion widens the range of visible lights, which does something interesting, I'm sure. Then there's various resistances: poison, paralysis, petrification, acid, rot, fear. Though rot is definitely interesting because she assumed that, this is the ability not to get sick when eating rotten food, but instead, ability to defend against rot attribute attacks. And then, so she looks up and it says rot attribute. Attacks that regulate the decay of death. So creepy, very, very creepy. Also, pain nullification negates any faculty limitations on the body and mind due to pain. So like I said before, she can work through pain, while pain mitigation reduces the sensation of pain, but dangerous signals to the brain will still continue. And then she stumbles upon a small pill bug-like monster, and very, very easily kills it, granting her the title Thread User, which boosts her thread control up to 6, and grants her Cutting Thread 1, which she practices by tearing the pill bug's corpse apart until it is so deformed it can literally not be shown on TV, which I'm starting to think Kumoko might be a bit of a sociopath. I'm starting to think she might be a bit of a sociopath. And then she comes across an anagrat, a tall monkey that likes to throw rocks. And fighting it, gets her evasion skill level 1, gets her own level up to 4, and gets her concentration, throw, and hit skills up to level 2. But she still should have run away. She still should not have fought that monkey, because she was not aware the anagrat race has the unique skill Vengeance, which causes them to fight to the death against an opponent that has harmed one of their own. So that's bad. That's bad. It's the reason why a monkey this week can appear on the lower stratum, because if one of them is killed, the entire species will go after the killer, telling everyone, in the lower stratum, okay, do not mess with those freaking monkeys, just run away when you see them. But before her big battle against monkeys, she has a chance to build a new nest, the first one since coming to lower stratum. She figures, if I build it really high up, no one will bother me, I'll be able to be safe and secure there. So she builds it 300 feet up in the air, so high up that her fear resistance goes up to level 6 while she's making it. She also levels up her Cutting Thread to 4, her Strength to 3, and gains the skills Instantaneous and Persistent, which is basically the SP version of Strength, giving her 1 extra point in her yellow SP and in her red SP. Huzzah! And then she sleeps so very, very soundly for the first time in such a long time, only to be awoken by the sound of 50 monkeys trying to climb up the walls. Yeah, that's bad, that's bad. And she does her best. She strengthens her home and starts using poison synthesis to drop poison down the monkeys, which gets her poison synthesis up to level 2 and her hit skill up to level 3. Yay! But the monkeys are smart. Surprisingly smart. They realize what she's doing and start spreading out so she can only, hit one of them at a time. And then they start planting themselves directly into her webbing to give the other monkeys a foothold to climb over. And while this is happening, another 50 monkeys show up. So yeah, this is bad. This is very, very bad. And at one point, she is very, very much near death. Her MP, HP, and SP are all basically at 0, and one of her legs was torn off. But thankfully, she managed to kill one of the monkeys, and then she refills all her bars and even regrows her leg. Yay! Boosting her concentration and hits to level 4, and her solidity up to level 3. And then she almost dies again. Like, immediately after this happens, she comes very, very close to death. But this managed to get her the skills Life and Magic Mass. And this supplies her all the time she needs to cut the thread that's holding up all the monkeys, and they all fall to the ground, boosting up to level 7. Yay! Unfortunately, at this point, 3 Bagarachas show up, and they are the evolved forms of the regular monkeys. They are double the size, have mouths like crocodiles, and can throw boulders like cannons. But thankfully, they are not really all that smart. I mean, the first one just leaps 300 feet into the air to try and grab Kumoko, and she just throws a net in the air, and it distracts him, pushes him to the side. He easily captured, easily killed. Second one gets caught in the web very easily. The third one actually hits her hard enough for her to develop faint resistance, but still it does not take her all that long to tie up both of them and drown them with poison. And then she ties up all the rest of the monkeys, and as she's looking down, a mass of monkeys tied up, and she's like, I really don't need to kill them, but they came after me first, so I'm gonna go murder all of them. And this grants her the title Merciless, which comes with heresy resistance and boosts her heretic magic, which... Yeah, I think the world's trying to tell you something, Kumoko. I think the world's trying to tell you something. And if it wasn't obvious enough, she also gets the title Monster Slaughterer, which comes with the skill Herculean Strength, which replaces her level 3 Strength, and Sturdy, which replaces her level 3 Solidity. And Herculean Strength is like Skanda. Every time you level up, you get 10 extra attack points for every level you have in Herculean Strength, so very, very useful skills to have. And she also reaches level 10, which allows her to decide between evolving into a Terror Attack or small poison Terror Attack, but she decides to push that off till the next volume. And then she just really, really decides to push fate by saying, heroes, demon lords, whoever, whatever, come at me. And then in the very next chapter is Goyef the Labyrinth Guide leading Julius and his party to go take out an unusual spider monster, which... I love it. I freaking love it. I mean, obviously these two events are happening years and years apart, but still, I just love the way that's written. It just really managed to trick and manipulate the reader, and it's just so well done. I freaking love it. But that was just the first half, because we still have all the Shun chapters. And weirdly enough, Shun spent his last night in Japan with Kumoko. Kinda. He spent it with her video game avatar Baldy. They were playing together in the game they both loved. and Baldy was this big, giant, silent old man who maxed out his attack and speed, and nothing else. If he got hit even once, he would die, but Kumoko was so skilled that it never happened, so very much like her spider character, all focused on attack and speed and not really on defense. In fact, Baldy's nickname in the game was Skanda, the very same skill that she was born with in this new world, so yeah, utterly perfect for her. And we do get a chance to see who the other characters were before they reincarnated. Yuri offers to lend a pencil to Shun in exchange for a candy later on, so much, much different from the religious fanatic that you one day become. Miss Ilka notices that Hugo and Faye are playing on their phones, and specifically calls on them to answer the next question, showing she can be friendly but merciless, and Hugo's best friend actually turns around to personally laugh at him, really showing, how close their bond was before he reincarnated, and before his best friend, basically died in the new world. He then looks up and sees a giant crack, a rift in air that splits open and feels intense, terrible pain before reincarnating as a baby. Oh no! But though he is born as a prince, the son of the king, so that's pretty good. Though he's not a child of the queen, but rather the king's favorite concubine, just like the hero Julius is. Sue, on the other hand, his little sister, who was born about the same time he was, is an actual daughter of the queen, so way more likely she'll become, royalty down the road. She'll become the next queen of this country. And Shui's just so utterly terrified and worried as a baby they're going to stop looking after him, they're going to stop taking care of him, and he's going to die. And then he looks over and sees his little sister soundly sleeping away and realizes, he's the older brother, so he needs to keep an eye on her, he needs to protect her, he needs to act cool as best he can, and that's his motivation, to keep pushing himself, training again and again, to always look cool to his adorable little sister. And then we skip ahead to Shun and Sue's appraisal ceremony. This is a very, very big deal, debutante ball, coming out party, basically his introduction into noble society, and everyone is going to look at his skills, his stats, and start judging him instantly. In fact, it's even said that if his skills were bad enough, he could be kicked out of the family and forced to become a commoner. Thankfully, what happened is maid Anna has been training him constantly since he was very, very young to make sure he would not dishonor the family here. And this is actually a very important detail in this world. If you train, if you run laps, if you lift weights, do all that stuff, you can actually make your stats go up even without raising your level. And you can even get new skills, strength, solidity, things like that because of it. So it's not really so much they were born inferior, they were born weak, so they had to be kicked out, but rather they didn't try hard enough, they didn't put enough effort to raise up their skills and level to be an appropriate, level that would be considered appropriate for a noble. Shun, however, has nothing to worry about as his HP and SP are both 35, his offense, defense, and speed are both 20, and his MP is 348. While his average magic ability is 314, and his average resistance ability is 299. So yeah, those stats are way, way above what a child should be, and it instantly just awes everyone in attendance. What's more though, he has 100,000 skill points. He should not have any skill points. You only get skill points when you level up, and his level is 1, so that's completely insane. As are his skills, N%I equals W, which, no one knows what that means. It basically says can't be appraised, but what it does is translate the appraisal language into Japanese so he can read it. As well as the skill Divine Protection, which says, and I quote, "You are protected by the heavens, making it easier for you to gain the result you desire in any situation." So yeah, I think that basically means that Shun is playing on easy mode. Everything goes his way. I mean, it was said when he was training with Katya that, she was considered a prodigy, but he levels up so much faster than her. He gets all his skills raised up so much more quickly than she does. So yeah, I think he's literally playing on easy mode. I think it takes him less experience, less time to level up and get stronger. But speaking of Katya, at the appraisal ceremony, Shun hears rumors about the Duke's daughter who apparently had some similarly impressive stats. So when he has a chance to talk to her, he greets her with a Japanese expression and her eyes widen in recognition. And then, even though there is a full line of people waiting to greet the prince, he takes her by the hand and drags her off into a private, soundproof room and closes the door behind him, which is, oh my freaking god. I mean, it was said in another volume that Shun didn't attend many etiquette or princely lessons, and it's so very, very obvious here because he just broke, every single rule of etiquette, and he is so lucky Katya actually was a reincarnator, and not just an innocent duke's daughter, because that's not the kind of thing, you can get away with just an apology. But anyway, once she realizes who he is, she starts laughing at him, and then once he realizes who she is, he starts laughing at her, and then they laugh, and then they cry, and they hug. And then Sue breaks down the door, sees them hugging, and attempts to murder Katya. Yeah, I should mention this. Sue is overwhelmingly, terrifyingly jealous. She's even jealous over Faye. But speaking of Faye, Faye hatches! Yay! And I just feel so bad for this girl, so overwhelmingly bad for this girl. I mean, she reincarnated as a monster, thinking it was some sort of punishment for the bullying she did. Bullying, which Kumoko didn't even care about. She even said that it barely counted as bullying. And then, she's finally reincarnated, finally reborn, finally hatched out of the egg after years and years. And the first thing she hears is Sue saying, "Oh, she's so not cute." And by this point, she actually understands the language of this world because she's been listening for the years and years she's been trapped inside that egg. And then to make matters all the worse, Anna picks her up and checks her gender. Oh, poor Faye, poor Faye. Oh, and even worse, Faye only has 10 years to live. Yeah, apparently Faye's race, baby dragons, only have a lifespan of 10 years, and if she doesn't evolve before that 10 years pass, she will die of old age. And then a while later, Katya goes to visit Shun and brings with her a skill book, which lists every single known skill, how to acquire that skill, and the best way to level that skill up. So basically a strategy guide, and this gives us some information about skills. I mean, there are the basic stat skills mentioned before, like strength. If you level your strength skill, then you'll basically increase your attack by 1. But if you manage to get strength up to 10, then it'll evolve into Herculean strength, and that'll result in you getting 10 additional attack points every time your own level increases. So it's very important for children to get these skills while they're still at level 1 so they can get the most benefit out of them. And as they're looking through the skill book, Katya and Shun both realize something very, very strange. Basically, there are no item production skills. Every skill is more or less focused on combat, meaning this entire world is based around combat, based around survival of the fittest, based on killing those weaker than you to become stronger. And that very, very much worries them. I mean, there are some exceptions. There's a swimming skill, and there's a telepathy skill. But speaking of telepathy, Faye sees that skill inside the book and ends up buying it and using it when she realizes that Shu is in fact reincarnated just like herself, and she is rather grateful that he is, a former classmate of hers instead of just a regular old prince. Though she was hoping, this beautiful fantasy that someday she turns to a beautiful princess. Yeah, probably not. And then we skip ahead to Sue and Shun doing some swordsmanship training. And then Julius shows up, literally right next to them, but his stealth skill was so impressive they didn't notice him until he started applauding, which, oh, I love it. That's the way to show off, man. That's the way to show off. And he has a quick sparring match against Shun, and even though it looks like he's fine, he actually had to go a little bit hard. He actually had to really push himself a bit to beat Shun and make it look like it was easy. I mean, Shun says his biggest goal is to one day fight beside Julius to back him up, but Julius is a bit worried about that because he knows that Shun has so much potential that one day he'll overcome him. One day he'll surpass him, even with his hero skill. And then Julius goes to see his father, the king, and they start drinking together. Yeah, as it turns out, the king is a big drinker, so to celebrate coming home, Julius always brings back some alcohol, some rare alcohol from somewhere in the world that the king hasn't had a chance to taste. This time it's something fruity, and they both just start throwing out death flags left and right. The king says, "Oh, the kingdom will be fine, even if something were to happen to me." And then Julius says, "Oh, Shun would have gotten the hero title if he had been born just a little bit later," basically saying, "I'm gonna die, and Shun's gonna get the hero title." And the king just feels so overwhelmingly guilty because right around the time that Shun and Sue were born, everything got crazy. The last hero died mysteriously. The demons started making more advances. There was something big going on in the Elro Labyrinth. And this isn't, entirely a coincidence, but still, he had to be focused on the kingdom, protecting the kingdom, rather than on being with his family. Now there's a distance between him and his kids that he can't overcome. And what's more, he had to send Julius out to war, even though he was very, very young himself. And we saw that in the battle between Ariel and Kumoko. I mean, the little bitty hero was, 8 or 9 then? But he was standing on the battlefield fighting. But Julius reassures him that he's a great father and a great king, and someday Shun will understand that. And then a short while later, Katya, Faye, and Shun all get summoned by the king, and Katya assumes it's to announce their engagement, which utterly freaks out Shun, but Katya explains it only makes sense, They're both high-ranking nobles, so arranged marriages make sense, and Katya and Shun clearly get along, so them getting married would not be all that strange. Of course, Katya and Faye both agree there is a very good chance that Sue will attempt to murder Katya as soon as this meeting's done, and yeah, that's pretty likely. But the king doesn't show up, and instead 12 show up. The first one, Thomas, introduces himself in a very disinterested tone, checks their status, and then walks away. And that just leaves them with the young elf, who responds, "So cute!" At which point they realize instantly this elf is in fact their teacher, Miss Oka. And as it turns out, yeah, they haven't been all that subtle about being strange weirdos. I mean, there's rumors going around all throughout the kingdom about how the prince's pet is an utter and complete genius who has intelligence way, way beyond what you'd expect from Monster, especially because the prince doesn't have a creature training skill. So yeah, it was not all that hard for Miss Oka to find them. And then she goes on to explain there are 11 students currently in the elf village. She's contacted another 6, and she's aware of 2 others who she's going to go meet after this. And, Shun takes this to mean, oh, that means there's only 6 whose locations we don't know about. There are only 6 we still need to find. That's amazing. That's great. But that's not exactly what Miss Oka said. And, rereading this chapter, it's very clear that Oka was very vague about this, about what's happening with the other 6 students. She didn't actually say if they were okay or not, and as we know now, quite a few of them were already dead by this point. But anyway, because Shun's a prince and Katya is the Duke's daughter, she can't actually take them back to the village, but she will be going to school with them to keep an eye on them and make sure they're safe. And then Shun's final line in this volume is how he's so excited to go to school about all the exciting things going to happen to him there. Oh, you poor, poor fool. And that's basically it. Well, I've been talking for a long time. Very, very long time. Well, actually, here's one last thing I did just want to read to you. The author's afterwards, because I thought that was such an utterly perfect way to end this video. I mean, it's about a spider. That's not exactly visually appealing. And to you, the readers who picked it up, have you lost your mind? If you've actually read this whole book, you can't be sane. Either that, or you just really, really like spiders. I do not like spiders, so clearly I must be insane. And that is how I'm going to end this video. Thanks so much for watching all this way. I will have my Volume 2 video up in another week or so. Depends on how long it's taking me to edit this one. I'll leave it all down below. Be sure to like, subscribe to the next video. Until then, peace!